456. The power of the Weather Channel, now available to everyone.
This is epic!
Trusted live coverage when it matters most is now yours to stream with the Weather Channel TV app. Real-time radar and maps that let you track all the action. Available now on these platforms. Download now to start your free 7-day trial.
Well, in case you missed it, Hurricane Otis made a historic landfall this morning in Mexico's Pacific coastline. It rapidly intensified to a major hurricane yesterday afternoon, then a Category 5 by the evening. So just a matter of hours before it slammed into Acapulco at 2:25 Eastern time. And it brought with it damaging winds, made landfall with prolific flooding in those historic winds. This thing was an absolute beast. And, Dr. Knapp always talks about what's the worst case scenario. It is one of these rapid intensifiers working towards a populated area right before landfall. And unfortunately, that's exactly what we saw with Otis. Yesterday morning, this was a tropical storm, Category 5 by evening. The recap of this storm, here's 6:45 Mountain Time as it made its approach to Acapulco. You can see that very well-defined eye. Really potent winds. The satellite estimates were crazy. All the experts were saying, didn't think we'd see something like this. Forecast models had nowhere near this kind of intensity with Otis. There it is at 12:30 Mountain Time. So overnight, middle of the night, we're dealing with this epic, historic, really potent storm making landfall in a very populated area, by the way. Over 1 million people live in the Acapulco area, and they were bracing for a much different system 24 hours ago. Made landfall as Category 5 with winds of 165 miles per hour, pressure of 923 millibars. By the way, at this point, it is a tropical storm, so it has weakened, but watch as that wind just cranked up, got to its peak right around landfall. 160 mile per hour winds at 11 o'clock Tuesday. By 2 a.m., 165 mile per hour winds. So again, a Category 5. This was the strongest rapid intensification in 12 hours in recorded history there. And now in the tropics, again, we've got Tropical Storm Otis. We do have 2 areas to watch as well in the eastern Pacific. Very warm ocean temperatures continuing to keep things active there. On the Atlantic side, we also have Hurricane Tammy that we continue to watch. Here's the latest stats on Tropical Storm now, Otis. 60 mile per hour winds, still bringing heavy rain across parts of Mexico. And when we talk about Mexico, we know the terrain comes into play, so flooding continues to be a concern. Moving north-northwest around 10 miles per hour.
Let's talk with our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knapp, for a look at what's happening right now, what could be a threat, what they may face in places like Bermuda with Tammy.
Yeah, they're going to feel some effects from Tammy, maybe as a post-tropical, tropical storm strength system. But I'm not really worried about Tammy for the continental U.S. But that doesn't mean we don't have issues in the Atlantic beyond Tammy.
There's nothing out there right now, though. What are you watching then?
Well, here's the interesting thing. The area to watch here in the extreme East Pacific, that was a former Caribbean tropical depression. But this is not guaranteed to remain in the East Pacific.
Okay.
Some piece of that at least has a chance to come onto the Caribbean side, and then that front crossing the country this week,
Mhm.
could that cause some trouble in the Caribbean next week? And the reason why we really have to keep our feelers up as we head into November
Mhm.
is a lot of untapped fuel here in the Caribbean. We haven't had storms going through the Caribbean to use up that energy, and then this is the part of the basin, the Atlantic Basin, that where the wind shear stays weak late into the hurricane season. So let's focus on what this is going to do, because this is so far in the East Pacific, Mike, that unless a ridge starts to send it westward, this could hang around Central America, and at least a piece of it comes in. So I know the Hurricane Center's got this area to watch that is.
That goes in this direction, however, but you're worried it could just meander.
Yeah, because that area to watch includes the eastern part. It doesn't necessarily guarantee it's
But
hitting
then
it
come
out.
across Central America and then
Yeah.
regenerate something else. It seems like that would be hard to do.
Yeah, I'll show you the models in a second. And we got to talk about Tammy that is restrengthened to Category 2. And here's it hitting the brakes as that trough comes off the East Coast and prevents Tammy from coming to the U.S. East Coast. But that trough, this one up here, this is the one that's going to bring the front through the continental U.S. So watch the colors of the low-level spin of our EastPac system. It's not making much headway in the Euro model, okay? And then here comes that trough across the continental U.S. Here comes some of that spin coming back toward the Western Caribbean as our Halloween front comes across the continental U.S. And then by the time we get to the middle of next week, that front and what's left of the EastPac system are all causing general areas of spin, tropical waves coming in. This is a potential trouble area, Mike, as we head into next week.
This time of year, in that part of the basin, where's the general steering flow? If something is to form there, where would it go?
Usually they tend to come north. Now, that doesn't mean they come all the way to the U.S. Maybe they hit some other part of the Caribbean. But this is the zone that the wind shear stays weak, the fuel is still abundant, and when fronts and systems hang around in there, just about anything can happen.
All right, Dr. Knapp, we're going to watch that one very, very closely for sure. And our coverage continues on the Weather Channel throughout the day. After Weather Underground, it's Storm Center at 5.